topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Powerful Business Strategies, where you will find out that everything you have ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Finally, a show where you'll learn the right way to grow your business by learning business and financial strategies that your competition isn't doing. And now, here is your host, President of Next Step CFO, Michael Barbarita. And joining Michael for today's show as an executive moderator is Chucky Obia.
Welcome to Powerful Business Strategies. And the reason why you don't hear the more invigorating voice of Chucky Obia welcoming you to the show is because Chucky's wife and Chucky recently welcomed their daughter Chelsea to the world. So congratulations to Chucky and his wife, and Chucky should be back on the show next week. So in the meantime, my name is Michael Barbarita. I'm president of Next Step CFO, and Next Step CFO is a fractional CFO and strategic implementation firm. Business owners hire us to double and triple their profit using business and financial strategies that their competition isn't doing. Our vision is to ensure that overwhelmed business owners achieve the time freedom and consistent profits to build a legacy and the life they desire. Our mission is dedicated to guiding small business owners to leveraging their time, exploding their profits, and building a meaningful legacy. The show Powerful Business Strategies and our book of the same name is a step toward accomplishing that vision and mission. And Chucky and I are both affiliated with a number of different organizations. And Chucky currently serves as the managing director of business development for Vedder Price, which is a global business-focused law firm. And in addition to that, Chucky and I collaborate to moderate business roundtables around the country and around the world and document those insights as part of our book, Powerful Business Strategies. But please note that the views expressed on this show are our personal views based on our own successful experiences. And here's something that I'd like to share that I've announced previously. If you have a business problem that you would like us to answer, or a business question, or a strategy that you'd like to ask about, please email us at ask@nextstepcfo.net. That is ask@nextstepcfo.net. Doesn't matter what the business problem is or the question, and we will answer it for you. And here's a couple of things that we do ask. Number one, please state whether it is something we can answer on the air or if it's confidential. And of course, if it's confidential, we won't put it on the air, but we'll respond to you, but we won't put it on the air. And number two, please provide your phone number because business problems can be complex and we might need some additional context or clarity. That email address again is ask@nextstepcfo.net. And I also want to point out that we've had a couple of questions, but they have requested confidentiality, which of course we'll always honor. You know, every successful business faces moments that test not just its model, but its leader's resolve. Whether it's watching a key employee walk out the door with critical knowledge, navigating changing government regulations, shouldering tax burdens that seem to grow heavier each year, or weathering those inevitable seasons when customers simply stop buying. These moments aren't the exception in business, they're the rule. They're the crucible that separates temporary success from enduring achievement. What distinguishes extraordinary business owners isn't the absence of these challenges, but their response when confronted with them. While others see departing talent as devastating, they see an opportunity to strengthen their systems. Where others see regulations as obstacles, they find ways to turn compliance into competitive advantage. When others panic during slowdowns, they use the time to innovate and prepare for the inevitable upturn. Remember this, every significant business challenge contains within it the seed of an even greater opportunity. So your job isn't to avoid these challenges, it's to develop the wisdom to extract the opportunity that they contain. The most valuable skill you can develop isn't avoiding problems. It's becoming the kind of leader who adapts and converts problems into platforms for unprecedented growth. That transformation begins with the decision that you won't merely survive these challenges, but you'll use them to thrive. You know, every day across America, talented, hardworking business owners wake up with a knot in their stomach. It's not because they don't have customers. It's not because they're not delivering value. It's not even because they're not making a profit on paper. It's because they're worried about cash flow. They wonder if they'll make payroll this Friday. They hope that a big client payment comes in before the rent is due. They juggle which vendor gets paid this week and which one will have to wait. But there's a fundamental truth that can transform this daily anxiety. Cash flow problems are only sometimes about how much money your business makes. They're mostly about systems, or in some cases, the lack thereof. The most successful business owners I've worked with weren't necessarily the ones with the highest revenue, even highest profit margins. They were the ones who mastered the mechanics of cash flow. Today, I want to inspire you with this powerful reality that no matter how challenging your cash position is right now, with the business systems and strategies, or with the right business systems and strategies, you can move your business from cash starved to cash rich. And when you do, you'll not only eliminate that knot in your stomach, but you'll gain the freedom to make decisions based on opportunity rather than necessity. That movement from cash starved to cash rich begins today. So today we're tackling perhaps the most critical aspect of running a successful business, mastering your cash flow. And let me start with the stark reality. According to a U.S. bank study, a study they did, 82% of business failures are due to poor cash flow management. Not lack of profit, lack of cash. You can be profitable on paper and still go out of business if you run out of cash. And as a fractional CFO and strategic implementer who has worked with hundreds of businesses across dozens of industries, I've seen firsthand how cash flow problems can cripple otherwise successful companies. But I've also seen how the right cash flow strategies can change struggling businesses into thriving enterprises with substantial cash reserves. So today, we're going to explore proven strategies to master your cash flow. Strategies that work regardless of your industry, regardless of business size, or regardless of current financial position. In our first segment, we'll identify the 12 most common cash flow killers that plague small and medium-sized businesses, from inventory management issues to pricing problems to accounts receivable challenges. And more importantly, we'll show you how to diagnose each of these issues and how they might be impacting your business right now. In the second segment, we'll dive deep into practical cash acceleration strategies. We'll talk about specific techniques to get cash into your business faster, also manage outflows more effectively, and create a consistent, predictable cash flow pattern, even in seasonal or project-based businesses. And finally, in our third segment, we'll explore how to create robust cash flow systems that not only solve immediate cash challenges, but build long-term cash reserves that provide both security and strategic advantages. So I just want to point out something else too, because I said just a second ago about even if you're in a seasonal business. Well, if you recall, I was in the ski business, and what could be more seasonal? And as a matter of fact, we closed in the off season. We shut the doors because we were a specialty ski store and skis was our game. And we didn't sell aqua lungs in the summertime. But at any rate, we never needed to use our line of credit. We had one, it was $400,000, but we never needed it. We never needed to use it in the off season. We had enough cash reserves built up to finance our summer. And those strategies that we're going to talk about today are the strategies that I used in order to not even touch the line of credit that I had in a seasonal business. And what makes this show particularly valuable is that most business owners only focus on cash flow when they're already in crisis mode. But the businesses that truly excel are those that implement proactive cash flow management systems before problems arise. And these businesses have the flexibility to seize opportunities, to weather unexpected challenges, and to make decisions based on strategic goals rather than immediate cash pressures. Big difference. And whether you're currently struggling with cash flow challenges or simply want to optimize your already stable position, the strategies we'll share today can help you build a stronger, more resilient business. Because remember, it's not just about surviving. It's about creating that financial foundation for exceptional growth. So grab that pen and paper, because the insights you'll gain today could be worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to your bottom line, and more importantly today, your cash position. And if you're driving, certainly don't grab that pen and paper, but listen to our replay at powerfulbusinessstrategies.com. So let's dive into the first critical component of mastering your cash flow, and that is identifying and addressing the common cash flow killers that might be draining your business. Cash flow problems are caused by specific issues that can be systematically identified and fixed. So let me walk you through some of those cash flow killers that we see across businesses of all types and sizes, by the way. And the first major cash flow killer is too much inventory. You know, a great retailer in Massachusetts, his name was Roger Butchica, once said, "The less inventory you buy, the more money you make." And what Roger meant is that too much inventory can put you out of business quickly. And this is the biggest mistake retailers make. It's overbuying. And overbuying not only kills retailers, by the way, it kills distributors who overbuy product and manufacturers who overproduce. You know, I once had a client in the distribution business who, because of a promotion that didn't meet sales expectations, was sitting on a 7-year supply of a particular product. Now, we got an offer of $15,000 to move this inventory, but it did, and it cost my client, that remaining inventory did cost my client $60,000. So it was $60,000 it cost was sitting there, and we got a $15,000 offer. My suggestion was to take the $15,000 and reinvest it in fresh, fast-moving inventory that was turning over 8 times per year at a 40% profit margin. By doing this, instead of tying up $60,000 in inventory that would take 7 years to move, they generated an additional $200,000 in cash flow that year through the reinvestment of that $15,000 in the fast-moving product. This is really, really important, by the way, because there are several factors why we business owners don't pull the trigger on situations like this. Now, they would have never generated that much cash waiting for that slow-moving stuff to sell, not in a million years. And this illustrates a fundamental principle. Because of the inventory turnover of more productive inventory, it pays to cut your losses and get rid of that slower moving inventory. So getting a question from a listener. So the question is, how can business owners determine the right inventory levels for their specific business to avoid this problem in the first place? Well, that's a great question. The key is implementing what I call an inventory intelligence system. And that's a systematic approach to the management of inventory. And they start by categorizing your inventory into A, B, and C items based on sales velocity and profit contribution. So your A items, typically the top 20% that generate 80% of your profit, should never be out of stock and require tight management. For these items, calculate your optimal reorder point by multiplying your average daily sales by your supplier lead time, then add a safety stock factor based on sales variability. For B and C items, you can be more conservative with stocking levels. Review these calculations quarterly as sales patterns change from time to time. But most importantly, implement a regular slow-moving inventory review to identify and liquidate items before they become 7-year supplies. Excuse the reference to the last example. So here's the other thing. We need to check our egos at the door, all of us. We business owners never want to admit that we made a buying mistake. It's probably one of the biggest reasons why we hold on to inventory. And as a result, we keep the inventory way too long. My client would have kept that inventory. We all have purchased dogs. No matter how great our buying skills are, we all have purchased dogs. Let's admit that they're dogs as soon as we possibly can, instead of hoping and praying that our dogs are really great. Anyway, the second major cash flow killer, I hate to say it, it bothers me to say it, but it's owners taking too much salary or making too many withdrawals. This one hits home hardest. The business is doing well, and as a result, the owner increases their personal lifestyle. Not necessarily too extravagantly, but by the way, but more than the business can afford if there is a downturn. And so while the business is doing well, it's not really feeling the effects of the additional salary that the owner is taking. And furthermore, the owner feels entitled to it. I don't blame them to a larger salary. They probably took a smaller salary while building up the business. The problem comes when the business has a downturn and the owner can't adjust their salary to a lower level, primarily due to an increased personal lifestyle. So unfortunately, there's only one way to manage this kind of situation. It takes discipline, and you determine a conservative salary, one that can be handled during a 10, 15, 20% downturn. And then when good years occur, you take bonuses. That way, when bad years occur, the business isn't strained due to the owner's salary. Another major cash killer is doing business with customers who are slow paying or don't pay at all. Oh, God, I've had clients continue doing business with customers who are just slow paying because they know them personally, or they've been customers for 100 years, or because, business is bad and they need to keep people working. So they take on these clients who just don't, these customers or clients that just don't pay. This is a very bad business practice. I once had a client who had $150,000 in over 90-day receivables from slow-moving customers out of a $250,000 total receivable balance. We immediately put all these customers in collection and refused to do business with them in the future. Now, some of these customers still came back to us, but we required them to pay COD, and overall collections improved dramatically afterwards. You just got to put your foot down at some point. So establishing a system of collecting accounts receivable so that your strategy is consistent and timely is really important. This is when we go back to systems. For example, for an invoice with terms of 30 days, contact the customer between the 35th and 40th day. If the customer doesn't return your call, you're not satisfied with their answer, send them a 10-day demand letter. This is from you now. Now, I have a template for this letter, and I can give it to you if you send an email to ask@nextstepcfo.net. That's ask@nextstepcfo.net, and I'll send you a reply with that template. But if the past due isn't paid within that 10 days, you have to put them in collection. And I know this is a big deal for a lot of business owners, but this system works. It just plain works. You have to get tough with some of these people. The next major cash killer is having overhead that's too high. Now, in most businesses, the largest expenses are rent, payroll, advertising, and insurance. And focusing on managing these expenses will give you the biggest bang for the buck. And for rent, even if you have a lease that you're committed to, you can often renegotiate the terms. Not all the time. I get that. But you can. Most landlords understand cash flow problems and don't want to lose tenants. I've done this before. Show them your financial statements. This is before you're in default, okay, you made that last payment that you think that's the last payment you're going to be able to make in the next several months. Show them your financial statements, demonstrate what concessions you need, and explain how you're going to pull through the difficult times. But here's the thing. You have to, I'll say it again, renegotiate with the landlord when it's cloudy, not when it's raining. In other words, be proactive. And how can you be proactive? You have a business and cash flow forecast. So for payroll, there's usually always a way to cut, whether by laying off underperforming employees or reducing hours. You know, in retail, changing store opening and closing hours can sometimes allow for a single 8 to 9 hour shift instead of multiple shifts. When I was in the ski retail business, you know, our hours of operation were noon to 9. This saved a ton on payroll, and customers never complained. And for advertising, while I don't like cutting it, there are ways to reduce costs dramatically, impacting sales by, you know, reducing ad sizes, changing from 4-color to 2-color printing, or focusing more on digital strategies with better ROI and better metrics tracking, and by using small budgets to test different messaging. You can test for as little as $5 a day on Facebook, by the way. And for insurance, get multiple quotes from multiple providers, or get quotes from multiple providers. Your commercial insurance carriers get very competitive and can usually sharpen their pencils on general liability policies. But usually they don't sharpen their pencils unless you ask. So and the other thing is if you have an umbrella policy, you have to reassess whether you truly need it. I had a client who had an umbrella policy that was costing him $17,000 a year. And the only reason why he had that umbrella policy was so he can make bids on government jobs that required the umbrella coverage. In the 3 years leading up to the time he hired me, he was never, ever successful on any government bid. So we dropped the umbrella. The next major cash killer is too much debt. You know, debt will kill you if it's excessive. And if debt is killing you, it's time to renegotiate terms. And I don't care if it's with a bank, if it's with the SBA, if it's with a private lender, I don't care who it's with. The key is, though, is to have good relationships with them all the time. I call it feeding your banker, both literally by taking them to lunch and figuratively by constantly communicating with them about your business. Because if you do that, over time, they get a better understanding of your business. So that when you come to them with problems due to a bad economy and so forth, they understand how you're going to get out of it. Instead of you having to start from scratch and explaining your business over and over again to these people. So having good communication with a banker. And if your banker leaves, you have to reignite the relationship with the new banker, because bankers leave all the time. I get it. Areas to negotiate, by the way, include interest rate reductions, extending terms, switching into interest-only payments, terming out lines of credit. So there's a number of ways to renegotiate. The next major cash killer is undercapitalization from the beginning. I've never seen an entrepreneur, including myself, by the way, accurately estimate cash required for a brand new venture. Once the venture's going, we're really good at that. But before the fact, we're a little tough. The inherent optimism of we entrepreneurs automatically seems to dictate that cash needs will be underestimated. So because entrepreneurs always underestimate cash needs, the search for money needs to be consistent and continuous, and it's wise to take the money you think you need and double it. I hate to say it, but that's the truth. So here's a question. Yeah, here's a question from a listener. You've covered 6 major cash killers. Which of these you find is the most overlooked by business owners, and why? Well, the most overlooked cash killer is definitely slow paying customers. And most business owners, they understand inventory issues. They're cautious about debt, but they're surprisingly tolerant of customers who pay slowly or inconsistently. And there's often an emotional component. They feel uncomfortable enforcing payment terms with long-standing relationships, or worry that they're going to lose the customer if they're too strict. You know, the customer agreed to terms. So you're not being too strict. But what business owners don't realize is that every day a payment is late essentially means they're extending an interest-free loan to that customer. One manufacturing client we worked with had over 400 grand in receivables beyond 60 days. That's 400 grand they couldn't use for growth. It's 400 grand they couldn't use for debt reduction or other strategic purposes. When we implemented a strategic collection process, they recovered over 85% of those funds within 90 days, dramatically improving their cash position without losing a single valuable customer. The lesson here is professional payment enforcement actually improves customer relations by setting clear expectations and putting you at the top of the list instead of the bottom of the list with some of the, lackluster other vendors. Here's another question coming in. For a business owner who identifies several of these cash killers in their operation, how would you recommend how you prioritize them? Which ones to address first? Well, I recommend using what I call the cash flow impact matrix. This involves assessing each issue based on two factors: how quickly it can be addressed and how significant the cash impact will be. For example, negotiating with slow-paying customers can often generate substantial cash within 30 to 60 days, while renegotiating a lease might take longer, but provide ongoing monthly savings. So start with the quick wins, the issues that can be addressed rapidly and with significant cash impact. Typically, this means focusing on accounts receivable and inventory issues, which can often free up substantial cash within 30 to 90 days when you address them, as we discussed. Then move to expense reductions that don't require complex negotiations or restructuring. And finally, tackle the longer-term structural issues like debt restructuring. The key is to build momentum with early successes that generate cash, which gives you more flexibility to address the more complex issues. Remember, this isn't about implementing perfect solutions. It's about systematic improvement that compounds over time. So before I continue this discussion, we're going to take a 90-second break.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon: your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact, or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back. Now let's explore the second critical component of mastering your cash flow, and that's practical strategies to accelerate cash into your business and then manage the outflows more effectively. So cash acceleration is about more than just collecting payments faster. It's about redesigning your entire business model to optimize the cash in and out of your business. So let's explore some proven strategies that can transform your cash position within 30 to 90 days. But first, let's focus on strategies to get money into your business faster. So number one is optimize your payment terms. The traditional model of doing work and then invoicing with 30-day terms can create significant cash flow gaps. So consider these alternatives: upfront deposits or retainers, For service businesses that require some service businesses require 25 to 50% payment before starting the work. I think you have to consider some type of deposit or retainer before doing the work. Progress billing. For longer projects, bill at specific milestones rather than waiting until completion. For subscription models, convert one-time purchases into recurring revenue streams. Also, you can have discounts up front. Like, for example, if you have a monthly subscription, if they pay in a year, you can take a couple of % off the summation of the 12-month subscription payments. Shorten payment terms. So consider 15-day terms instead of 30. A consulting firm was struggling with cash flow despite being profitable, but by simply changing from 100% payment after project completion to a model of 50% upfront and 50% on completion, they eliminated their cash flow problems within 60 days. The second thing you should do is streamline your billing process. Now, many businesses create unnecessary delays in their own cash cycle through inefficient billing. So you have to invoice immediately upon delivery or service completion, not wait to month end. Second, use electronic invoicing rather than paper bills. Third, implement clear, detailed invoices that prevent payment delays due to questions. Offer multiple payment methods, particularly electronic options, and set up automatic payment reminders. A manufacturing company reduced their average collection time from 47 days to 31 days by implementing automated same-day invoicing and electronic payment options. This 16-day improvement released over $400,000 in cash that had been tied up in receivables. Oh, we got a question already. A question from a listener. These strategies make sense for service businesses, but what about retail or other businesses where payment is typically received at the time of purchase? How can they accelerate cash flow? Good question. So retail and point of sale businesses, they need to focus on different acceleration strategies. So first, optimize your inventory turn rates. The faster the inventory turns, the better your cash flow. So implement just-in-time inventory systems wherever possible and use data analytics to predict seasonal needs more accurately. And then negotiate better supplier terms. Even extending from net 30 to net 45 can significantly improve cash position. Third, consider deposit systems for custom orders rather than ordering products without a customer commitment. It's another way. Fourth, review your payment processor arrangements. Even a 0.5% reduction in processing fees adds up substantially. And finally, especially in retail, by the way, and finally, create opportunities for prepaid packages or gift cards, which provide immediate cash for services delivered later. One retailer increased their cash position by $120,000 in 90 days through these models without changing their core business model. So the first cash acceleration strategy was optimizing your payment terms. The second was streamlining your billing. The third is implement strategic collection processes. Don't leave collections to chance or inconsistent effort. Develop a systematic multi-touch collection process that starts before the invoice is due. So segment your customers based on payment history and tailor your approach accordingly. Assign specific team members responsibility for collections. Consider early payment discounts. So if you have a 30-day invoice, if somebody pays in 10 days, give them 2%. But don't let them cheat. Don't let them cheat. I've seen 1,000 times where customers will pay they'll take the discount after paying in 15 days. Don't let them do that. Use technology to automate much of the process. A distribution company implemented a graduated collection system that included automatic email reminders at 7 days before the due date, then again on the due date, and then 7 days past the due date, followed by personal calls and then demand letters for anything beyond that. Their past receivables dropped from 32% to 8% within 90 days. I mean, it's just you got to do the work here. And then leverage your financial products strategically. Various financial products can help bridge temporary cash flow gaps. So like business lines of credit. Secure these when cash flow is good, not when you're already in trouble. You'll never get it if you're in trouble. You got to build up your lines of credit and always manage that. You know, if you today you have $100,000 line of credit and you still haven't gone into it, you know, apply for 150 or 200. It'll help when times get tougher. It's really important to do that. When I was at Ski Town, we started with a $100,000 line of credit. We ended up with 400. We never used it, but that doesn't mean I don't keep trying to increase it. Invoice factoring. Sell your receivables at a discount for immediate cash. This is if you have to. Inventory financing. Use inventory as collateral for short-term funding. Banks will loan on inventory. Supply chain financing. Arrange for your customer banks to pay you immediately while extending credit to them. One of my clients secured a $250,000 line of credit when their business was strong. A year later, when a major customer delayed a substantial payment, they were able to draw on the line rather than missing payroll or delaying vendor payments or ending up with that knot in their stomach. This prevented a short-term cash crunch before becoming a crisis. Now, let's turn to strategies for managing outflows. Optimize your vendor payment strategy. So how and when you pay significantly impacts your cash position. So negotiate extended terms with key suppliers, 45 to 60 days instead of 30. When I was in the ski business, sometimes I got 6-month terms. I'd taken the inventory in February and I don't have to pay it till October. I don't even know how many months that is, but I think it's more than 6 months. Consult, and they'll do that if you're a good customer and if you pay on time, whatever the terms are. Consolidate vendors to gain better terms through higher volume. Set up, that's buying group stuff. You know, consider joining buying groups. Set up a systematic payment system schedule rather than paying bills as they arrive. Consider the strategic use of credit cards for certain expenses to extend payment timing. I mean, you can take 30-day terms and make them 50 if you pay on a credit card. Think about that. Implement approval processes for all expenditures above a certain threshold. A service business negotiated extended payment terms with their top 5 vendors, resulting in an immediate $75,000 improvement in their cash position without any change to their operation or any revenue shift or anything. Implement zero-based expense reviews. So rather than incrementally adjusting last year's budget, start from zero. Require every expense to be justified based on current business needs. Remember what I said last week. You cut the expense if the expense doesn't help you acquire a customer, if the expense doesn't help you retain a customer, if the expense doesn't help increase the long-term value of a customer, and if the expense doesn't help deliver your product or service to a customer. Evaluate subscriptions and recurring expenses. This is a huge area. Watch your credit card bill and look at the subscriptions you're not using. Implement the rule of 3. Get 3 quotes for any significant expense. We already talked about that for insurance. Distinguish between essential and non-essential spending and create formal approval processes for any new recurring expenses. Then you can manage capital expenditures strategically. That's another area. So major purchases can significantly drain cash if not managed properly. So consider leasing versus buying for equipment that depreciates quickly. We have formulas to show you which is better. Implement a formal ROI, return on investment analysis for all capital expenditures. What's the payback of your capital expenditure? That's another metric that's really important when looking at capital expenditures. Explore vendor financing options. Create a capital expenditure reserve fund during strong months. Manufacturing company was planning to purchase $300,000 in equipment. By renegotiating a lease-to-own arrangement instead, they reduced their initial cash outlay by 85% while preserving their working capital for operational needs. Here's a question from a listener. Yeah, you shared many strategies for accelerating cash flow. And for business owners who are already feeling overwhelmed, what would be the one cash flow acceleration strategy with the highest impact to effort ratio? Well, if I had to identify the highest leverage strategy, it would be implementing a systematic, technology-enabled invoicing and collection process, period. Most businesses have leakage in their collections, and they send out invoices late. Their follow-up is inconsistent. There's no clear path when when payments are delayed. And by setting up automations for these things, you will see incredible efficiency. Another question is many business owners worry that implementing stricter cash flow management might damage relationships with customers or vendors. How do you recommend balancing cash flow optimization with maintaining good business relationships? Well, that's a crucial concern. But you start by being transparent and proactive and businesslike. When changing payment terms, give advance notice and explain to the business the reasons. Frame collections as a customer service function. For example, we're reaching out to ensure everything was satisfactory with your order and to confirm your invoice was received. Confirm our invoice was received. For vendor relationships, so don't just demand better terms, look for mutual benefits, perhaps offering faster payment on a portion of invoices in exchange for extended terms on the balance. The most important principle is consistency. When your policies are clear, consistent, and professionally communicated, they actually strengthen relationships by setting proper expectations. So before I continue this discussion, we're going to take a 90-second break.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon, your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact, or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back. So let's focus now on the third critical component of mastering your cash flow, and that's building robust systems that create long-term cash flow predictability and security. While addressing immediate cash flow issues is important, creating sustainable cash management systems is what really moves the needle from perpetually being cash stressed to consistently being cash rich. So let's explore the key systems that create this improvement. First, let's talk about implementing a 13-week rolling cash flow forecast. This is perhaps the most powerful tool for proactive short-term cash management. And unlike traditional annual budgets or even monthly forecasts, a 13-week cash flow forecast gives you detailed week by week. That's why I said short-term earlier. Projections, week by week, of exactly what cash will be coming in and going out of your business. And here's why this time frame is so powerful, that 13 weeks. It's long enough to identify potential cash crunches before they occur. It's short enough to forecast with reasonable accuracy. It captures both immediate operational realities and longer-term trends, and it enables you to test the cash impact of decisions before you make them. The key elements of a 13-week cash flow include beginning balance, projected cash receipts based on receivables and sales forecasts, projected cash disbursements categorized by type, your ending cash balances, available credit facilities, and total liquidity position. But what makes this tool particularly powerful is that it's updated weekly on a rolling basis. This means you're always looking forward 13 weeks, continuously refining your projections based on actual results. I worked with a construction company that was perpetually in cash crisis, despite having profitable projects. And by implementing a 13-week rolling cash flow forecast, they identified that they had a reoccurring cash crunch every quarter when certain income tax payments came due. And this insight allowed them to set aside cash in anticipation of these predictable obligations rather than being caught by surprise each time. Quick question here from a listener that I'm going to take. This 13-week cash flow forecast sounds good, but it also seems like it might require significant time and expertise to maintain. How can a busy business owner implement this without it becoming overwhelming? Well, that's an important practical consideration. The key is starting simple and leveraging technology. So begin with a basic template that captures your major cash inflows and outflows without getting lost in minor details. And many accounting software platforms now offer cash flow projection features that can automate much of the process. And for businesses without this capability, even a straightforward Excel spreadsheet can work effectively. The critical part is establishing a weekly rhythm, perhaps every Monday morning, where you update actuals from previous weeks and adjust projections for the coming week. This typically takes 30 to 60 minutes once the system is established. The time investment is minimal compared to the return, quite frankly. And we do this as well, by the way. I prepare cash flow forecasts for 2 or 3 clients right now. I think it's 2. I prepare this, and I meet with them every week on it, every Monday. The second critical system is implementing cash flow KPIs. Those are key performance indicators that give you early warning of potential issues. And while 13-week forecast looks forward, these KPIs help you understand your current cash position with greater clarity. And the key KPIs will be the cash conversion cycle, which is how long it takes to convert investments in inventory and other resources into cash from sales. The second one is the days sales outstanding, which is the average number of days it takes to collect a payment after a sale. Days payable outstanding is the average number of days you take to pay your vendors, and inventory days is the average number of days inventory sits before being sold. So think about this. If you know the average number of days it takes to collect, if you know the average number of days your inventory sits before being sold, and if you know the average number of days it takes to pay your vendors, add up those 3 averages. That's essentially your cash conversion cycle that I mentioned at the first step. And by tracking these metrics consistently, you can identify trends before they become problems. For example, if your day sales outstanding is steadily increasing, your collection process needs attention before it creates a serious cash shortage. Okay, so let me recap what we talked about today because I am running out of time. So as we wrap up today's discussion on mastering your cash flow, let's summarize some of the key strategies we've covered for transforming your business from cash starved to cash rich. First, we explained the common cash flow killers that drain businesses of their lifeblood, from excess inventory and inappropriate owner compensation to slow-paying customers and high overhead. We emphasized that identifying these issues isn't about assigning blame, but about diagnosing the specific causes of cash restraint so they can be systematically addressed. Remember, cash flow problems are rarely about how much money a business makes. They're about systems or lack thereof. Second, we covered practical cash acceleration strategies that can transform your cash position from 30 to 90 days. Transform your cash position within 30 to 90 days. We discussed optimizing payment terms, streamlining your billing process, implementing strategic collection systems, and leveraging financial products effectively. We also explored strategies for managing cash flows more intelligently, from vendor payment optimizations, zero-based expense reviews, to strategic capital expenditure management. And the key insight here is that small improvements across these multiple areas, they compound on each other. Third, we examined the robust systems that create long-term cash predictability and security. We discussed the power of the 13-week rolling cash flow forecast and the importance of tracking key cash flow KPIs, establishing a consistent cash flow management rhythm, and creating cash flow buffers. So as we leave the show today, I encourage you to take these 3 specific actions. Number 1, conduct an honest assessment of which cash flow killers are present in your business. Implement at least one cash flow acceleration strategy in the next 7 days, and begin building your 13-week cash flow forecast immediately. Remember, cash flow mastery isn't about luck or even about how much revenue your business generates. It's creating intentional systems that optimize the flow of cash in and out of your business. And when you do this consistently, that knot in your stomach, as I mentioned at the beginning of our show, begins to dissolve and replaced by confidence that comes from true financial clarity and control. To get a copy of the book, Powerful Business Strategies, simply go to our website, www.nextstepcfo.net. It's totally complimentary. And until next Monday at noon Eastern Time, for Chucky Obio, my name is Michael Barbarita, and remember, don't keep doing what your competition is doing.
You have been listening to Powerful Business Strategies, finding out that everything you ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Tune in next week and every week at noon Eastern Time on W4CY Radio with your host, Michael Barbarita of Next Step CFO, and moderator Chucky Obio.